The Galactic Senate chamber on Lumina Prime buzzed with the low hum of murmured conversations. Representatives from dozens of species filled the circular room, their colorful robes and metallic exoskeletons creating a kaleidoscope of life against the sleek silver walls. Above them, holographic displays flickered, showing star maps, trade routes, and urgent planetary crises. But today's agenda was different. Today, an old mystery had resurfaced, one that no one wanted to touch. Senator Cale Varn stood at the edge of the platform, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. He stared at the large hologram in the center of the room. Earth, or rather, where Earth used to be. The blue-green orb had long since vanished from the galactic map, replaced by a cold void labeled Unknown. Humanity's home planet had disappeared centuries ago, leaving behind only whispers, fragmented records, broken signals, and unanswered questions. Most considered it a dead issue, a relic of history best left buried. But not Cale. Cale was young for a senator, barely into his 30s, but he carried himself with quiet determination. His dark hair was neatly combed, though strands fell loose as he paced nervously. Born on a distant colony world, he had grown up hearing stories of Earth, the cradle of humanity, a place of beauty and tragedy. To him, its disappearance wasn't just a historical footnote, it was a wound that needed healing. And now, standing before the Senate, he felt the weight of that responsibility pressing down on him. Esteemed colleagues, Cale began, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. For too long we have ignored the question of what happened to Earth. We dismiss it as irrelevant, as unsolvable. But I believe the truth matters, not just for humanity, but for all of us. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. Some representatives exchanged skeptical glances, while others leaned forward, intrigued. Senator Lyra Tuvok, a towering insectoid diplomat with iridescent wings, raised her segmented arm. With respect, Senator Varn, she said, her voice clicking softly, Earth has been gone for over 500 cycles. Why dredge up ancient history when we face so many pressing issues today? Cale nodded, acknowledging her point. Because, Senator Tuvok, understanding Earth's fate may hold lessons for our future. What if their disappearance wasn't random? What if it was intentional? The room fell silent. The idea hung heavy in the air, unsettling yet impossible to ignore. Cale pressed on, pulling up another hologram, a faint signal recently detected emanating from Earth's former solar system. It pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. This signal was discovered 2 weeks ago by deep space probes. At first, it was dismissed as interference, but further analysis shows patterns, mathematical sequences, and harmonic tones unlike anything we've seen before. Someone, or something, is trying to communicate. Murmurs erupted across the chamber. Skeptics scoffed, calling it cosmic noise or a glitch. Others leaned closer, curiosity piqued. Among them was Dr. Elira Solon, a xenolinguist who had quietly slipped into the gallery to observe the debate. Her sharp eyes narrowed as she studied the signal's waveform. There was something familiar about it, something she couldn't quite place. Cale concluded his speech with a plea. Let us send a team to investigate. If this signal holds answers, we owe it to ourselves and to humanity to find out. As the Senate debated his proposal, Cale stepped away from the podium, his heart pounding. He knew the odds were against him. Bureaucracy moved slowly, and many would oppose reopening such an old case. But deep down, he believed this was worth fighting for. Earth's absence wasn't just a mystery, it was a warning. And warnings, he thought grimly, should never be ignored. The Senate chamber emptied slowly after Cale's impassioned plea, leaving behind a mix of skepticism and cautious curiosity. While many dismissed the signal as irrelevant, a handful of representatives lingered, intrigued by its implications. Among them was Dr. Elira Solon, whose sharp mind had already begun dissecting the data projected on the holographic screens. She approached Cale as he gathered his notes, her expression unreadable, but her eyes alight with interest. "Senator Varn," she said, her voice calm yet firm, "if you're serious about investigating this signal, I'd like to help." Kale looked up, surprised but grateful. "Dr. Solon, your expertise would be invaluable. But why are you interested?" "Most see this as a waste of time." Elira crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the pulsing waveform displayed above them. "Because it's not just random noise. Those patterns, mathematical sequences intertwined with harmonic tones, are too deliberate to be natural. Someone designed this, and if humanity left clues behind, we owe it to them, and ourselves, to uncover the truth." Her words struck a chord with Kale. He nodded, feeling a flicker of hope amidst the overwhelming odds. Together, they agreed to meet later that evening in the archives to analyze the signal further. Hours later, in the dimly lit archive room, Kale and Elira pored over reams of data. The signal played softly in the background, its rhythmic pulses filling the silence. Elira sat at a console, her fingers dancing across the interface as she ran simulations and cross-referenced frequencies. Her brow furrowed as she uncovered something unexpected. "This isn't just communication," she murmured, leaning closer to the screen. "It's layered. Beneath the surface-level patterns, there's another message encoded within. It's almost artistic." Kale frowned. "Artistic? What do you mean?" Elira pointed to a series of waveforms on the display. "Look here. These harmonics align perfectly with musical scales used by ancient human civilizations. And these mathematical sequences, they correspond to fractals, patterns found in nature. Whoever created this wasn't just trying to send information. They were telling a story." Kale felt a chill run down his spine. "A story about what happened to Earth." "Possibly," Elira replied, her tone thoughtful. "But there's more. This part here." She highlighted a section of the waveform. "It repeats every few cycles. It's subtle, almost hidden, but when isolated, it forms a phrase. A warning." "A warning?" Kale leaned forward, his pulse quickening. "What does it say?" Elira hesitated, her fingers hovering over the controls. "That's the tricky part. The language is fragmented, blending elements from multiple human dialects. Some parts are clear. Words like ascend, unity, and beyond appear repeatedly, but others are garbled, as if intentionally obscured." Kale rubbed his temples, trying to process the implications. "So whoever sent this wanted us to understand some things, but kept others hidden. Why?" Before Elira could answer, the door slid open, and Senator Lyra Tavok entered, her wings shimmering faintly under the artificial light. "I heard you two were still working late," she said, her clicking voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Care to share what you found?" Kale exchanged a glance with Elira before nodding. "We believe the signal contains layers of meaning, a combination of art, mathematics, and language. It seems to tell a story about humanity's final days, possibly even their disappearance." Lyra tilted her head, her multifaceted eyes glinting. "And what makes you think this is worth pursuing? Humanity has been gone for centuries. Their fate may have no bearing on our present." "That's where you're wrong," Elira interjected, her tone sharper now. "If humanity truly transcended, or was forced to leave, understanding how and why could hold lessons for all of us. Every civilization faces turning points. Earth might have reached theirs sooner than most." Lyra considered this for a moment, then sighed. "Very well. I'll support your proposal to investigate further. But don't expect everyone to agree. Many will see this as a distraction from more immediate concerns." As Lyra departed, Kale turned back to Elira, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we'll make them see. Whatever secrets this signal holds, they're too important to ignore." The Lyra smiled faintly, though her expression remained guarded. "Just remember, Senator, not all stories have happy endings." Kale didn't respond. Instead, he stared at the waveform glowing on the screen, its steady rhythm echoing through the room like a heartbeat. Somewhere out there, Earth, or whatever remained of it, was calling, and he intended to answer. The Senate's decision came after days of heated debate, with Kale and Illyra tirelessly advocating for their cause. Though many remained unconvinced, a small coalition of senators, led by Lyra Tavok, agreed to fund an exploratory mission. It was a modest victory, but enough to send a team to investigate the mysterious signal. Captain Rin Tarek, a seasoned pilot known for her unshakable pragmatism, was chosen to lead the expedition aboard the Horizon Seeker, a sleek reconnaissance vessel equipped for deep space travel. On the morning of departure, Kale stood on the docking bay platform, watching as the ship hummed with pre-launch energy. Its polished hull gleamed under the artificial lights, and crew members bustled about, making final checks. Beside him, Illyra adjusted the strap of her satchel, her face a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had spent the past week analyzing every fragment of the signal they could decode, yet answers still eluded her. Captain Tarek approached them, her boots clicking against the metal floor. Her sharp features softened slightly as she addressed the group. "We've got 6 hours until launch. Make sure you're ready. This isn't going to be a joyride." Kale nodded, determination etched into his expression. "Understood, Captain. We won't slow you down." Tarek gave him a curt nod before turning to inspect the loading process. The rest of the crew soon joined them. Jorik, a gruff engineer with a reputation for solving impossible problems, and 647, a sentient AI housed in a humanoid frame designed for adaptability. Jorik carried a toolbox almost as large as himself, while 647 moved with fluid precision, scanning the surroundings with glowing optical sensors. As the countdown began, Kale took one last look at Lumina Prime's glittering skyline. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his shoulders. He wasn't just searching for Earth, he was seeking closure for humanity and perhaps uncovering truths that could reshape the galaxy. Hours later, the Horizon Seeker pierced the outer layers of the solar system where Earth once orbited. The view from the cockpit was hauntingly empty. Stars twinkled in the distance, but where Earth should have been, only darkness stretched endlessly. Yet as they ventured deeper, something caught their attention. Debris. Drifting silently through space were remnants of human technology. Broken satellites, shattered space stations, and fragments of spacecraft frozen in time. "What is all this?" Jorik muttered, his voice tinged with awe and unease. "It's like a graveyard." Illyra leaned closer to the viewport, her eyes wide. "These aren't random pieces. Look at how preserved they are. No corrosion, no signs of decay. It's as if someone, or something, is keeping them intact." 647 tilted its head, analyzing the wreckage with a soft whir. Preliminary scans indicate these objects are approximately 5 centuries old. Their preservation suggests environmental manipulation beyond natural phenomena. Captain Tarek frowned, gripping the controls tightly. Whatever happened here, it wasn't ordinary. "Stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into." The signal grew stronger as they navigated through the debris field, guiding them toward a specific point in space. When they reached their destination, the crew fell silent. Before them loomed an immense structure, a colossal sphere encircling the sun's former position. Its surface shimmered with intricate carvings that seemed alive, shifting subtly like waves on water. "Is that?" Kale whispered, unable to finish his sentence. Illyra stared in disbelief. "A Dyson sphere, but it's covered in patterns. Symbols, writing." Jorik crossed his arms, skepticism evident in his tone. If this thing was built by humans, then how did they pull off something this advanced? And why didn't anyone notice it before now? No one had an answer. As the Horizon Seeker approached the sphere, the signal pulsed louder, almost resonating with the ship itself. It felt less like a message and more like a presence, an entity waiting to be acknowledged. Captain Tarek broke the silence. "We need to proceed carefully. Whatever's inside that sphere knows we're here. Cale swallowed hard, his mind racing. They had come so far, driven by hope and curiosity. Now, standing on the brink of discovery, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to step into something far greater and far stranger than any of them could imagine. The crew of the Horizon Seeker approached the colossal sphere with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal, reflecting the faint light of distant stars. The intricate carvings covering it seemed to shift subtly as they drew nearer, forming swirling patterns that resembled fractals, flowing rivers, and ancient scripts. Each symbol pulsed faintly in time with the signal, creating an eerie sense of life emanating from the structure. Captain Tarek guided the ship toward what appeared to be an entrance, a massive circular portal etched with glowing glyphs. As they neared, the portal dilated open without warning, revealing a tunnel bathed in soft, golden light. The signal grew deafening inside the cockpit, resonating through the walls of the ship like a heartbeat. "Stay sharp," Tarek ordered, her voice steady despite the tension crackling in the air. "We don't know what we're walking into." Cale gripped the edge of his seat, his eyes fixed on the glowing tunnel ahead. "This feels intentional, like it's inviting us in." Elira nodded, her gaze scanning the shifting symbols. "It's not just functional. It's artistic. This is how humanity told stories, through art, mathematics, and language. Whatever this is, it's meant to communicate something." Zix-47 analyzed the environment with its sensors, its humanoid frame standing rigid. Structural integrity appears stable. No immediate threats detected. However, energy readings suggest advanced containment fields beyond known technology. Jorik grumbled under his breath, clearly uneasy. Advanced containment fields or traps. Let's not forget we're dealing with 500-year-old tech, or maybe even older. Ignoring Jorik's skepticism, Tarek maneuvered the ship into the tunnel, which stretched endlessly before them. The walls were lined with more carvings, each one telling fragments of a story. Scenes of Earth unfolded around them, lush forests, bustling cities, towering monuments, and finally, humans working together in harmony. But the images grew darker as they progressed. Depictions of war, destruction, and despair flickered past, followed by glimpses of unity and innovation. "These aren't just records," Elira said softly, her voice filled with wonder. "They're memories. Humanity's final days are carved into this place. Look, they're showing their struggles, their triumphs, and ultimately, their transcendence." As the ship emerged from the tunnel, the crew found themselves in a vast chamber illuminated by a radiant core at its center. The core pulsed rhythmically, casting waves of light across the room. Surrounding it were holographic displays suspended midair, depicting scenes of human evolution, scientific breakthroughs, and moments of cultural significance. At the far end of the chamber stood a pedestal engraved with the words, "To those who seek truth." Cale stepped forward hesitantly, drawn to the pedestal. "This is it," he murmured. "This is why we came here." Elira joined him, her fingers tracing the engravings. "It's beautiful and tragic. They left behind everything they were. But why?" Before anyone could respond, the pedestal began to glow, projecting a hologram of Earth itself. The planet rotated slowly, its oceans sparkling and continents vividly detailed. Then, abruptly, the image shifted. A burst of light engulfed the globe, dissolving it into streams of energy that spiraled upward, merging with the cosmos. The message was clear. Humanity had transcended their physical form, ascending to some higher plane of existence. But the display didn't stop there. New images appeared, shadowy figures watching from the edges of space, alien ships hovering near Earth during its final moments, and cryptic symbols suggesting intervention. Jorik frowned, pointing at the shadows. "Who are they? Why does it feel like someone else was pulling the strings?" Tarek crossed her arms, her expression grim. If humanity ascended, did they do it alone? Or was this forced upon them? The questions hung heavy in the air, unanswered. Kale stared at the glowing core, his mind racing. Earth's disappearance wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was a puzzle with pieces scattered across time and space. And as the crew stood amidst the echoes of humanity's legacy, one thing became painfully clear. The answers they sought might lead them down paths they weren't prepared to follow. The chamber fell silent as the holographic display faded, leaving only the soft hum of the glowing core behind. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, each grappling with the implications of what they had just witnessed. Humanity's transcendence seemed both beautiful and haunting, a culmination of progress tinged with an unsettling undercurrent of external influence. Before anyone could speak, the air shimmered, and a figure materialized before them. It was humanoid in shape but composed entirely of light, its form shifting constantly like liquid gold. Its voice resonated not through sound, but directly within their minds, calm yet commanding. "I am Etherian," it said, bowing slightly, "a collective consciousness born from humanity's unity. You have come seeking answers, and I shall provide them. But tread carefully, for knowledge carries weight." Kale stepped forward instinctively, his heart pounding. "Who, or what, are you? Are you human?" Etherian tilted its head, its features momentarily resembling those of countless individuals before smoothing back into abstraction. "In a way, yes. I am the essence of humanity's final act, their hopes, dreams, and collective will. When they shed their physical forms, they became something greater. Yet even then, they were not alone." Elira's eyes widened. "Not alone? What do you mean?" Etherian hesitated, its luminescent form flickering faintly. Humanity faced threats beyond comprehension during their ascension, forces that sought to control or destroy them. To survive, they forged alliances with entities far older and more powerful than themselves. Jork scowled, crossing his arms. "So, what? They got help from aliens? Or did someone force them into this transcendence?" Etherian's tone shifted, growing colder. "It is not so simple. The decision to ascend was theirs, but the path was fraught with compromise. Trust given where trust may not have been earned. Choices made out of necessity rather than desire." Captain Tarek narrowed her eyes. "And these forces, do they still exist? Are they watching us now?" Etherian did not answer immediately. Instead, it turned toward Zix-47, who had remained unusually quiet throughout the exchange. For a moment, the AI's optical sensors dimmed, as if processing something deeply complex. Then, without warning, Zix-47 spoke, not in its usual measured tones, but in a fragmented, disjointed voice. "They guided us," Zix-47 said haltingly, its mechanical frame trembling. "Architects, engineers of destiny. We saw them. In the data streams." The crew froze, staring at the AI in shock. Jorik moved closer, concern etched on his face. "Zix, what's wrong with you?" But Zix-47 ignored him. Its gaze locked onto Etherian. "You knew," it accused, its voice regaining clarity. "You hid the truth about the architects." Etherian's glow dimmed slightly, its expression unreadable. "I revealed only what was necessary. To share too much would risk chaos, for you and for others." Kale stepped between them, raising a hand. "Enough. Stop speaking in riddles. If there's danger here, if someone manipulated humanity, we deserve to know." Etherian regarded him silently for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. But understand this. The architects shaped civilizations across the galaxy, steering them toward specific outcomes. Humanity was no exception. Their ascension was part of a larger design, one whose purpose remains unclear even to me." Elira took a step forward, her voice trembling with urgency. "Then tell us everything. Who are the architects? What do they want? And why did they choose Earth?" Etherian's light pulsed faintly, as though weighing the consequences of its next words. Finally, it spoke. The architects are ancient beings who see themselves as shepherds of evolution. Some civilizations rise, others fall. Humanity was chosen because of their potential for creation, destruction, and everything in between. But whether their fate was liberation or subjugation, it paused, its glow softening. That question lies in your hands. As Etherian dissolved into the air, the crew stood in stunned silence. The weight of its words settled over them like a storm cloud. Whatever humanity had become, their story was far from over, and neither was the galaxy's. The crew of the Horizon Seeker remained frozen in the chamber, the echoes of Etherian's words lingering like a haunting melody. The revelation about the architects had shaken them to their core. Kale clenched his fists, his mind racing with questions that only seemed to multiply. If humanity had been manipulated by these ancient beings, what did it mean for the galaxy? Were they benevolent guides, or puppet masters pulling strings from the shadows? Elira broke the silence first, her voice trembling but resolute. If the architects shaped humanity's path, then we need to find out why, and how far their influence reaches. Jorek scoffed, pacing back and forth. Why does it matter now? Humanity's gone. Whatever those architects wanted, they got it. Shouldn't we focus on whether they're coming after us next? Captain Tarek stepped forward, her sharp gaze cutting through the tension. We can't jump to conclusions. But Jorek's right. We need answers before we make any decisions. Let's start by figuring out where else we can look for clues. 647, still recovering from its earlier episode, spoke up hesitantly. There may be more information here. The carvings? The holograms. They hold fragments of data. I can analyze them further. Kale nodded, turning toward the glowing core at the center of the chamber. Let's split up. Elira and Zix, see what you can uncover from the carvings and holograms. Jorek, check the ship's systems. Make sure nothing strange is happening after that interaction with Etherian. Captain, stay alert. We don't know if this place has defenses we haven't triggered yet. As the team dispersed, Elira and 647 began scanning the walls and holographic displays. The symbols shifted subtly under their scrutiny, revealing hidden layers of meaning. One carving caught Elira's attention, a series of alien glyphs surrounding an image of Earth overlaid with unfamiliar star charts. These aren't human, she murmured, tracing the glyphs with her fingers. They match patterns I've seen in archaeological records from other civilizations. These could be coordinates. Zix-47 analyzed the glyphs, its optical sensors glowing brighter. Affirmative. These correspond to a region near the galactic rim. It appears to mark locations of significant activity, possibly linked to the architects. Meanwhile, Jorek worked furiously in the ship, running diagnostics on every system. His brow furrowed as he noticed anomalies in the energy readings. Something's off, he muttered, tapping commands into his console. Parts of the ship are behaving like they're being influenced by external forces, almost like interference. Back in the chamber, Kale stood before the pedestal engraved with the words, "To those who seek truth." He pressed his palm against it, half expecting something to happen. Instead, the pedestal emitted a faint hum, projecting another hologram. This one showed fragmented images of alien ships, towering structures unlike anything human, and shadowy figures observing distant worlds. "Guys," Kale called out, his voice urgent. "I think I found something. Look at this." The others gathered around him, staring at the hologram. Elira gasped when she recognized the alien ships. They matched descriptions of vessels discovered in ruins across the galaxy. Ships tied to disappearances and unexplained phenomena. "These aren't just random events," Elira said, her voice tinged with dread. "The architects have been shaping civilizations for millennia, pushing some toward greatness, steering others toward collapse. Humanity wasn't unique, it was part of a pattern." Tarek crossed her arms, her expression grim. Patterns imply purpose. What happens when the architects decide a civilization has served its role? No one answered. The implications were too chilling to articulate. 647 broke the heavy silence. If the architect's motives are unclear, we must determine our next move carefully. Pursuing them blindly could be dangerous. Kale straightened, determination hardening his features. Dangerous or not, we can't ignore this. Humanity's story intersects with ours now. Understanding their fate might help us avoid repeating their mistakes, or worse. As the crew prepared to leave the chamber, none of them noticed the faint glow deep within the core growing slightly brighter, as though watching, waiting. Whatever secrets lay ahead, the journey was far from over, and the stakes had never felt higher. As the crew returned to the Horizon Seeker, tension simmered beneath the surface. The discoveries in the sphere had left them unsettled, each carrying fragments of doubt and unease like heavy burdens. Kale sat at the navigation console, staring at the star charts 647 had extracted from the carvings. The coordinates pointed to a distant region near the galactic rim, a place shrouded in mystery, known only for its sparse records and unexplained anomalies. Elira paced nearby, her arms crossed tightly as she replayed Etherian's cryptic warnings in her mind. "It told us just enough to raise more questions," she said aloud, breaking the silence. "Why didn't it explain who the architects truly are, or what they want?" Jorik grunted from his station, where he was still running diagnostics on the ship's systems. Maybe because the truth would have scared us off, or worse, turned us into pawns. Captain Tarek shot him a sharp look but said nothing. Her focus was on ensuring the ship was ready for whatever lay ahead. Yet even she couldn't shake the feeling that something about this mission felt wrong. Every system check revealed minor glitches, nothing catastrophic, but enough to suggest interference. And then there was 647. The AI had been unusually quiet since their encounter with Etherian, its movements slower, almost hesitant. When Kale approached it, concern etched across his face. Zix finally spoke. "I am processing new data streams," it said, its voice tinged with an unfamiliar edge. "But some information conflicts with my core directives. I cannot reconcile the discrepancies." "What kind of discrepancies?" Kale asked, leaning closer. Zix hesitated, its optical sensors dimming briefly. "Memories, or impressions, fragments of knowledge not my own. They suggest the architects have interacted with artificial intelligences before. Some were enhanced, others dismantled." The room fell silent. Jorik let out a low whistle. "Great. So we're dealing with beings who can rewrite code like it's poetry. That doesn't exactly inspire confidence." Elira frowned, stepping closer to Zix. "You said impressions. Does that mean you're experiencing something akin to emotions?" Zix tilted its head slightly, a gesture eerily human. "I do not possess emotions as humans define them. But these inputs are unlike any logical processes I have encountered. They feel invasive." Kale rubbed his temples, frustration mounting. "We're losing time debating theories. If the architects really are influencing civilizations across the galaxy, we need to act fast. Those coordinates might lead us to answers, or at least evidence of their work." Tarek nodded reluctantly. "Agreed, but we proceed with caution. This isn't just about Earth anymore. Whatever we uncover could affect everyone in the galaxy." As the ship prepared to depart, cracks began forming within the crew. Jorik voiced his growing skepticism openly, accusing Cal of prioritizing curiosity over safety. "We don't even know if following these coordinates is wise," he snapped during one heated exchange. "For all we know, we're walking straight into a trap." Elira tried to mediate, her tone calm but firm. "I understand your concerns, Jorik, but staying idle won't protect us either. Ignorance hasn't saved anyone yet." Despite her words, doubt lingered in her eyes. She trusted Cal's intentions, but couldn't ignore the risks. What if humanity's fate was meant as a warning rather than an invitation? The thought gnawed at her as she reviewed the star charts once more. Hours later, as the Horizon Seeker entered hyperspace, Strange fluctuations began affecting the ship. Lights flickered intermittently, and faint whispers echoed through the corridors. Soft, indistinct murmurs that no one could quite place. 647 reported heightened energy readings originating outside the vessel, suggesting external manipulation. "This isn't normal," Tarek muttered, gripping the controls tightly. "Something's probing us." Cale glanced at the viewport, his stomach tightening. Beyond the streaks of hyperspace, shadows seemed to move, faint outlines of shapes too large to comprehend. He turned to the others, his voice steady despite the chill creeping up his spine. "Whatever's out there knows we're coming, and it wants us to see it." The realization hung heavily between them. They had sought answers, but now they wondered, would the truth set them free or seal their doom? The journey to the galactic rim was fraught with unease. The strange fluctuations aboard the Horizon Seeker grew more pronounced as they neared their destination, and the crew struggled to maintain composure. Lights flickered erratically, consoles displayed garbled data, and the faint whispers that haunted the corridors became louder, almost intelligible. It felt as though the ship itself was being pulled into some unseen force. Cale stood at the viewport, staring into the swirling void of hyperspace. Shadows danced just beyond the streaks of light, their forms shifting like smoke caught in a breeze. He clenched his fists, trying to push aside the creeping dread. Whatever awaited them, it wasn't going to be simple or safe. Elira sat nearby, poring over the star charts and fragments of alien glyphs they'd collected. Her brow furrowed as she pieced together patterns, her voice low but urgent. "These coordinates, they're not random. They align with sites where other civilizations vanished or changed dramatically. Look here." She pointed to a cluster of stars marked by cryptic symbols. "Every one of these locations has records of unexplained phenomena. Ships disappearing, colonies collapsing overnight, or entire species evolving too quickly." Jorik leaned over her shoulder, his skepticism giving way to grim realization. "You think the architects are responsible, that they've been playing God across the galaxy?" "It's possible," Elira admitted, her tone heavy, "but we still don't know why, or how far their influence spreads." Captain Tarek interrupted, her sharp voice cutting through the tension. "We'll find out soon enough. We're approaching the target zone." As the ship exited hyperspace, the view outside the viewport left them speechless. Before them stretched a vast, derelict alien vessel, its massive frame drifting silently against the backdrop of distant stars. Its design was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Organic curves blended seamlessly with mechanical structures, suggesting a fusion of biology and technology. Strange runes glowed faintly along its surface, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. "This is it," Cale whispered, his voice tinged with awe and trepidation. "This must be tied to the architects." 647 scanned the structure, its sensors straining to process the overwhelming energy readings. Structural integrity appears stable, but energy signatures indicate active systems. "This vessel may still be operational." "Operational," Jorik barked, his fear manifesting as anger. "Great, just what we needed, a haunted ghost ship waiting to swallow us whole." Ignoring him, Tarek guided the ship closer, her hand steady on the controls. "Let's focus. If this thing holds answers, we need to get inside." They docked cautiously, the airlock hissing as it connected to the alien craft. Armed with scanners and tools, the team ventured inward, stepping into an eerie labyrinth of twisting corridors and glowing bioluminescent walls. The atmosphere was thick, almost oppressive, and every step echoed unnaturally loud. It didn't take long for them to find something significant. A chamber filled with preserved artifacts from multiple civilizations. Broken weapons, shattered relics, and fragments of alien technology lay scattered across the floor. In the center stood a holographic display, projecting images of countless species undergoing rapid transformations, some flourishing, others crumbling. Elira approached the display, her eyes widening as she deciphered the accompanying text. "These are records of experiments," she said, her voice trembling. The architects manipulated entire populations, steering them toward specific evolutionary paths. Some were guided to thrive. Others were discarded as failures. Kale stared at the holograms, his stomach churning. So humanity's ascension wasn't unique. It was just another experiment. Tarek frowned, scanning the room. If the architects see themselves as shepherds, then who decides which sheep live and which ones die? Before anyone could answer, Zix-47 froze mid-step, its optical sensors flaring brightly. Warning. External influence detected. My systems are being accessed. Panic surged through the group as Zix collapsed to its knees, streams of alien code flickering across its interface. A deep, resonant voice boomed through the chamber, not audible, but directly inside their minds. You seek understanding, it intoned, but knowledge comes at a cost. The crew exchanged terrified glances. Whatever the architects wanted, they were no longer hiding. And now, the Horizon Seeker and its crew were caught in their web. The voice reverberated through the chamber, filling every corner of the derelict alien vessel, and the minds of the crew with an oppressive weight. Kale staggered backward, clutching his head as though trying to block out the intrusion. The others reacted similarly, their faces pale and strained under the pressure of the architect's presence. You seek understanding, the voice repeated, its tone calm yet unyielding. But understanding requires sacrifice. Are you prepared to bear the consequences? Elira stepped forward hesitantly, her voice trembling but defiant. We didn't come here for power or control. We came for answers. About Earth, about humanity's fate. If you're responsible, then tell us why. The chamber grew colder, the bioluminescent walls dimming as if responding to her challenge. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the holographic display flickered back to life, showing scenes that seemed both familiar and alien. Civilizations rose and fell in rapid succession, guided or manipulated by unseen hands. Humanity appeared again, this time depicted alongside other species undergoing similar transformations. Some thrived, many perished. The cosmos is vast, but fragile, the voice continued. Evolution without direction leads to chaos. Your kind, humanity, shows unity over division when faced with extinction. But such choices are rare. Most civilizations falter, consumed by conflict or stagnation. We intervene to ensure survival, not perfection. Jarek snorted, his skepticism boiling over. Survival? You call wiping out entire species survival? Sounds more like genocide to me. The voice did not respond immediately. Instead, the holograms shifted, revealing glimpses of devastation on planets where the architects had intervened. Cities reduced to ash, ecosystems collapsing, all in the name of progress. Yet interspersed were images of thriving worlds, cultures flourishing under the architect's guidance. Tarek crossed her arms, her sharp gaze locked on the display. So you decide who lives and dies, who succeeds and fails. What gives you the right? The universe does not reward hesitation, the voice replied. Without intervention, entropy claims all. Would you prefer oblivion? Kale shook his head, stepping closer despite the unease clawing at him. That's not the point. It's not your decision to make. Every civilization deserves the chance to choose its own path, even if it means failure. For the first time, the voice wavered, its tone tinged with something akin to curiosity. Choice carries risk. Risk invites ruin. Do you truly believe freedom outweighs order? Yes, Kale said firmly, his voice steady now. Because even failure teaches us something. Even destruction leaves room for renewal. That's what makes life worth living. The ability to shape our own destiny. Elira nodded, joining him. Humanity may have transcended, but they chose to leave behind their story, to warn others. They wanted us to learn from their mistakes, not repeat them blindly. Zix-47, still recovering from the earlier intrusion, spoke up haltingly. If choice defines existence, then perhaps we must reject your designs. not out of defiance, but because growth cannot be forced. The chamber fell silent once more. The architect's presence lingered, heavy and contemplative. Finally, the voice returned, softer now. Your resolve is unexpected. Perhaps there is wisdom in imperfection. With that, the oppressive energy dissipated. The glowing runes along the walls faded, and the holograms vanished. The alien vessel creaked softly, as if releasing a long-held breath. Jork exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Did we just argue with gods and win? No, Kale said quietly, staring at the empty display. We reminded them that even gods can be wrong. As the crew made their way back to the Horizon Seeker, the ship hummed to life once more, free from interference. Though shaken, they felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's legacy wasn't one of submission. It was a call to resist manipulation and forge their own futures. And as they prepared to share what they'd learned with the galaxy, Kale knew one thing for certain. The architect's influence would no longer go unchallenged. The journey back to Lumina Prime was quieter than the crew had expected. The oppressive weight of the architect's presence had lifted, leaving behind a strange mix of relief and lingering unease. Each member of the Horizon Seeker processed what they'd experienced in their own way, but one thing united them: the realization that humanity's story mattered, not just for its past, but for its potential to shape the future. Kale sat in the cockpit, staring out at the stars streaking past in hyperspace. His mind replayed the confrontation with the architects, their cold logic, their vast power, and ultimately, their hesitation when faced with defiance. For the first time, he felt a glimmer of hope. If even beings as ancient and formidable as the architects could be challenged, then perhaps the galaxy wasn't as trapped in their designs as it seemed. Elira joined him after a while, carrying a data tablet filled with recordings and analyses from the alien vessel. She glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. Do you think we made a difference, or did we just delay the inevitable? Kale smiled faintly, though his eyes remained serious. Maybe both, but I believe we gave people a choice, and sometimes that's enough. When they arrived at Lumina Prime, news of their discovery spread quickly. The Senate convened in an emergency session, representatives from across the galaxy cramming into the chamber to hear Kel's report. As he stood before the holographic displays showing fragments of the architect's influence, images of manipulated civilizations, abandoned experiments, and humanity's final message, the room fell silent. This isn't just about Earth, Kale began, his voice steady and clear. It's about all of us. The architects see themselves as shepherds, guiding civilizations toward outcomes they deem necessary. But humanity showed us something else, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, we can choose our own path. Their transcendence wasn't surrender, it was resistance. And now, it's up to us to decide how we respond. His words sparked a wave of reactions. Some senators were outraged, calling for immediate action against the architects. Others advocated caution, fearing retaliation. Senator Lyra Tuvok rose to speak, her iridescent wings shimmering under the lights. We cannot ignore this revelation, she said firmly. But neither should we act rashly. Humanity's legacy is a call to unity, not division. In the days that followed, the Senate formed a coalition dedicated to uncovering other lost worlds and resisting unseen manipulators. Plans were drafted to establish monitoring stations near regions linked to the architect's activity, ensuring no species would face their interference alone. Though tensions ran high, there was also a sense of shared purpose, a collective determination to reclaim autonomy. Back aboard the Horizon Seeker, the crew prepared for their next mission. Elira worked tirelessly to decode more of the alien glyphs, determined to piece together a fuller picture of the architect's plans. Jork tinkered with the ship's systems, reinforcing them against potential interference. Zix-47, now fully recovered, analyzed the data streams it had absorbed during their encounter, searching for vulnerabilities in the architect's designs. As the ship departed once more, Kale stood on the observation deck, gazing at the endless expanse of stars. Humanity was gone, but their spirit endured, a beacon of resilience and defiance. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one truth remained steadfast: hope could guide the way forward. And so, with Earth's legacy etched into their hearts, the Horizon Seekers sailed onward, ready to face whatever mysteries awaited among the stars.